Welcome back to Board Game Breakdown. I'm Christopher Solomon. In this burst video, we'll be diving into the dice placement game Encyclopedia. For a longer video with full details on setup and how to play, please click this link to visit our standard review. If not, let's get started. In Encyclopedia, players act as naturalists and adventurers, researching varying species by organizing ambitious expeditions and then publishing their findings for the world to see. Gameplay takes place over a total of 6 rounds and can accommodate up to 4 players, or a solo player can mix in up to 3 additional AIs to play against. Rounds start with the flipping over of a round token, which will typically bestow a bonus for all players in the given round. Next, 4 dice are drawn from the bag and rolled by each player. The players then decide which slot on their player board will house each dice. The dice are colored to match the continents, with there being red for the Americas, blue for Europe, purple for Asia, yellow for Africa, and green for Oceania. Once all dice are placed, the starting player takes their first action. Actions are spread out across the board and are powered by placing a dice on the action, much like you might do in a worker placement game. Players are not limited to only using the 4 dice on their board though. They can take dice from the other players to use, but this typically gives some sort of reward to the player who's giving up the die. The first player places a dice on an action, takes the action, and then play moves to the next player. Let's take a quick look at the actions starting at the top of the board. The top of the board has a total of 3 action spaces. The top left is the embassy, where a die can be placed in order to take expedition tokens. Opposite of the embassy is the bank. Any die can be placed at the bank, rewarding the player with 5 coins, and the first to use this action gets to be first player in the next round. Right underneath these spaces is the university. The university houses 6 expert cards, each colored to match one of the continents mentioned earlier. Die values do not matter here, and any card can be taken, but if players use a matching die, they can also take an expedition token. The middle of the board is reserved for the academy. A collection of animal cards will be placed in the academy every round. Much like the expert cards, the animal cards are matched to a single continent each, but they also hold 4 other important pieces of information called types. A die is placed at the academy, and a card is taken that matches the die color. Below the academy is where players go to research the animals in the wild, charting expeditions to visit continents across the globe. Die of the correct color can be placed on the continent, allowing players to mark off types on each of their animal cards from that same continent. The die values play an important part here, as the more types a player wants to mark off, the higher the value has to be. Luckily, expedition tokens, coins, and even expert cards can help to boost these values to fairly high levels to help players achieve their goals. Once players are satisfied with the animal types they've researched, they can take the last action at the bottom of the board called publication. This action enables players to move the cubes off of their cards and put them into the category spaces on the board. After cubes are removed, animal cards can be placed in a pile by continent to be scored later on in the game. After all die are used up, the round is over. Cards are refreshed, die are re-rolled, and play continues until the end of the 6th round. Scores at the end of the game are heavily predicated on larger collections of an individual type versus many types being researched fewer times. For example, a player who has 10 cards of the Americas type while also having 11 cubes in the aquatic type will score a total of 63 points by just concentrating in these 2 categories. Comparing this to a player who researches 5 different category types but only collects 5 cubes in each, they will only score 25 points. Encyclopedia is a smart and fun twist on both dice placement and set collection that plays quite different from similar games in this market. Please visit BoardGameBreakdown.com for more information, and thanks for watching.